Welcome to TriTech University, the first episode or the first session of 2022. My name is Bill Steppen, and today we are going to do a deep dive into inventory price changes, with this being kind of the first of the year and probably the beginning of most company fiscal calendars. Obviously, a lot of things can happen at this time of year with the beginning of a session. Good afternoon, Devin. How are you? I hope you're doing well. With kind of the onset of the calendar year, things usually happen, such as catalog updates and most especially price changes. And I'm sure at this point, none of us here are all too what's the word I'm looking for? Unfamiliar with price changes, especially the craziness that the past couple of years have been. But I want to go into just all the different ways that you have in AIM to accomplish the updating of prices, whether it's just on a case-by-case basis or whether we're talking about changes across the board. You've got a lot of options, so let's explore those. But, like always, if this is your first session, welcome. We're happy to have you here. Over to the right is the chat bar. So you'll see two tabs, the schedule tab, if you will, and the chat tab. Go ahead and click on that if you haven't already done so. And at the bottom of the list is a nickname button. You can click that, you can punch in your name, and then that will allow you to talk to me. Keep that chat tab up, and if you've got any questions throughout the course of this broadcast, go ahead and type those in, and I will keep that front and center in front of me, so as questions come in or statements or anything like that, I will do my best to answer those. And everyone can see your chat messages too, so this gives everyone an opportunity to pitch in with your own ideas on what you've been doing with the system, if that's what you would like to do. So let's go ahead and switch over to my screen, and we'll start to explore some of these things. So here in AIM, I'm going to, for the purposes of speed and efficiency, just because that's what I'm used to, I am going to use these drop-down menus. But feel free to follow along if you will, if you want to, on your own copy, and you can start to check things out as well. So when it comes to inventory price changes, first of all, I want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what we mean by that. So on any given inventory record, I'm just going to go straight to a change inventory program here. And of course, that has popped up on a different screen entirely. So let's see if I can't bring that over here with my multi-monitor setup. Move and bring this down here. Come on. Move. All right, you're gonna be a pain already, aren't you? Awesome. Let's do this. Can I bring this over to here and then bring it down like this? Okay, there we go. Fun times, right? No, always best to start off with technical difficulties. So let's go ahead and bring up our good old buddy RT14. So again, I want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what we mean when we talk about a price change. So on any given location record, which is tied to the SKUs, you have the ability to keep track of average costs and freight price points and retail and hour price and minimum price and price A and B and C and all these different things. And those are per location. So if you have a multi-location setup, you can keep track of different price points at different locations if that is a thing. If the price changes need to be higher at one location because of demand and lower at another location because of supply, whatever the case is, so be it. So when we talk about price changes, you could use this utility right here, which is the Edit Inventory program. If I went a bit too fast, let me go ahead and shrink this kind of back down, hopefully, so that I can kind of keep this on screen at the same time. So I went to Modules and Inventory, the Add Change Inventory menu, and the Change Inventory program. This is probably the most straightforward way to edit anything to do with a record, including price points. But As you can see, there's a lot of other things that are available to be adjusted in this program. For example, you could come in and you could change the category or the subcategory or the manufacturer or lots of other things outside of prices. And you may not want just any old person to be able to come in here and make these changes. They probably need to be able to make price changes, but you don't necessarily want them to have access to this entirety, this very powerful program, this change or edit inventory utility. So with that in mind, if we go back to the inventory menu and go down to utilities, I want to introduce you to a program called Change SKU Details. Change SKU Details will look like this. Let me bring it down to this monitor. And what this program allows you to do is do the same thing. Put in your SKU, or scan it in, if you will. Right up here you can kind of see I typed that in. And this program does essentially the same thing, but it's more focused on things that might need updating every so often, such as prices. You can see this is letting me see what this item is, the premium valve oil. I apologize if it's kind of small, but it's showing me the current average cost on hand and the weighted cost and the quantity that I have and all kinds of things. And with each of these fields, you can see there's a little checkbox next to the field. So if, let's say, for example, I wanted to go in and change just the R price, I could come in and check mark the box next to that field, and then I could come in and make an adjustment to that. Now, getting back to the location concept, right now I am at location 1, I believe. I'm at Dubuque location. If I wanted to not only change this price here, but at all locations, I could come down to this little checkbox right to my right in front of me here, which says all locations. If I were to check mark that, then when I make this adjustment, this price adjustment at this first location, and I hit save, that will go ahead and that will change the price at all of the locations simultaneously. So this Change SKU Details program is an excellent resource for going in and making very specific adjustments on very specific inventory records. And it also focuses just on those particular types of things. If I wanted to change the normal cost for the next time I receive this item from any given vendor, I can check mark the little vendor checkbox here, and then I can click down here into the normal cost field and change that so that the next time I receive this item from that vendor, it'll go off of that basically that cost specific to that vendor. By the way, if you do need to also add another vendor to this inventory record, you can click up here while this is checkmarked, and then you can press the F6 key, which will then bring up your vendor search algorithm. And then let's say, for example, I can also get this from, let's say, Xander's, for just because. And then maybe their cost is $1.85. So by putting that in there, then the next time I go and receive this item, if I bring it in from Acme, it'll come in at $2 a bottle. If I bring it in from Xander's, it'll come in at $1.85 a bottle. So keep that in mind too. You might notice that the cost field up here does not have a checkbox next to it, because technically that is the cost from which it has been received over the average course of the quantity on hand. And basically, we don't want to change that, because that would go back and that would make all sorts of accounting adjustments. If you need to, you can go back into the edit inventory, the change inventory program to do that. But usually the idea here is, going forward, do we want to sell it at a new price? Do we want to receive it at a new cost? So this is a great place to do that. Like I said, this is specific to an individual SKU. There's a similar program called Change Serial Details. So above and beyond the SKU record, if you need to go in and make similar adjustments to individual serial numbers, this is halfway down here, right in front of my eyeballs. You might notice it looks very similar. We would put in the model or SKU, and then the serials would be listed here. I don't actually know a serial record off the top of my head in my system here, so let's go ahead and find one. preferably one that has some inventory on hand. Here we go. So let's select that. So you can see down here, this is now showing the 2 serials that I have on file here. So same idea, you could come down here and you could check mark and make adjustments and save that. And then you also have the opportunity to print new labels both here and in the other program if you are barcoding and labeling inventory for sale. Yandas is asking, can we use this module to update prices on all serial numbers under a SKU? That is actually what this program is here, is the updating of the individual serial records. Back on the Change SKU Details program, where we were just at, you can use that to make adjustments on the serialized SKU, which is this record up here in this case. So back in the Change SKU Details, you change that, and then any serials you receive going forward would get updated. But as far as any individual serials that you already have on hand, that is this utility here. And Christy is asking, can I clarify the difference between the cost and the vendor cost? Certainly, Christy. Let me actually do this. I'm going to go back to that change inventory program. So let's bring that back up and go back to RT14 here. So on any given inventory record, I'm just using an accessory record here as an example, you have a cost. And this cost, which again, I apologize that it's very small, say it's $2. So in essence, what this says is this is the average cost for the 69, in this case, that I have on hand at this present moment. So over that, they may have been received, a few of them may have been received at $1.85, a couple of them may have been received at $2.15, but overall, all 69 are sitting at an average cost received of $2 a bottle. So if I were to take this and multiply it against this, that is maybe within a penny or two of the actual cost value that I have on hand of that product. But back on the SKU tab, on any given vendor record, you have what's called a normal cost per vendor for that SKU. So when you order and receive this product from any given vendor, they may have their own individual costs, and this is the cost value that it would be received at the next time you go to receive it. It may actually vary between normal cost and last cost, which is what this L cost field is. And there is a system variable that actually controls which cost value that gets received at. So bringing this down here, if I go ahead and look for cost, this will be determined on this PO cost system variable here. If you have a 1 in this system variable, it'll use the normal vendor cost. If you change this to a 2, it would use the last vendor cost. So just kind of keep that in mind. Hopefully that helps there, Christy, as far as what we mean by normal or excuse me, average or cost on the item versus the vendor cost. Okay, so as I was saying, everything we've been kind of talking about here is kind of on an individual item basis. I also want to talk about a couple of utilities that we have that allow you to do mass changes, especially if we're talking about a supplier or a catalog that has just done, let's say, a 10% price increase across the board, and you want to accommodate that accordingly. If we go back to the utility menu in inventory, I want to point out 2 programs. The one that we have for everyone to use is called Change Inventory Pricing. And technically, the other one will also be for everyone to use, but it'll be a little bit more in-depth. We'll see that in just a moment. Here in the Change Inventory Pricing program, this allows you to go in and be very specific about what's going to be updated as far as inventory records and what price fields will be updated on it. So it might be hard to see, but this is kind of a 3-part variable. By the way, for those of you who are sitting here in the live stream, down at the bottom right corner, if I actually, let's do this, let's switch this back over. So down here or so on the screen, there should be like a little box. If you click on that, that will make this widescreen or full screen, so it might be a little bit easier to see. Anyway, getting back to my topic at hand here. So this first part up here states to choose what inventory file you want to update for this cost or price calculation. It defaults to accessory inventory. You can also use this to update serial inventory. We're talking about the serial SKUs in this case. You can also update the serial numbers themselves. You can also import price changes for accessory inventory, serial inventory, and serial numbers. Again, serial inventory are the SKUs by which all future serials will be received, and the serial numbers are the existing serialized inventory that you already have on hand. From there, you can also select whether or not this is going to be either at a specific location or all locations if you have more than one. In the middle here, then, this allows you to pick and choose kind of chunks of your inventory for updating. So you can put in a model or catalog or serial number range. You can make a selection by manufacturer, by vendor, by category and subcategory, by selection code. This next field here sometimes gets a little confusing, so I want to talk a little bit about this. You can see how it says enter price range if there is a price level selected, and that goes back to this drop down here. So remember, this middle section is casting a net. It's not necessarily what's going to get updated, but it's basically saying if inventory that is in that has a price level or a price selection of, let's say, retail price between X and Y, if that is true, then it will be included in this price update. So again, this can be very selective all the way down to individual SKUs if you so desire, but this is usually meant to be casting the net to kind of talk about all of that. And Eric is saying if we make it full screen, we can't chat. Technically, back on the chat box, I think there is an option to pop that out. So if you want, you could technically float that over the window, I do believe, although your interface might be a little bit different than mine. So again, getting back to this middle section, this is essentially the selection criteria. Then at the bottom, this is now going to ask for the price field that you want to update. And if you are updating more than one price field, you might be running this utility a couple of times. But let's say you want to come in and all of the retail prices, the suggested retails are going up 10% across the board. So you can come in here and you can say we're going to select the retail price, and then we're going to adjust it based on maybe the percent of retail. In this case, we're going to do 100, or let's do it 110%. And then from there, you can make selections on whether or not to include or exclude discontinued items, or to change either rented or used or refurbished items, and whether or not you want barcode labels to print. Ultimately, if we click proceed with this, and I have not selected any filtering criteria, so I don't have a lot of inventory in here, but as we can see, it's now going to come up and let us know that the following SKUs at my locations are going to have the retail price adjusted. So the old retail, in this case, for the first SKU here, is $17.99, and that's going to get updated to $19.79. And then these SKUs down here have an old retail of $7.60, and they'd get updated to $8.36, essentially 10% above the existing retail price. If I were to hit save on that, then those will all get updated, and it brings me back to this screen where all of my settings still are there. So now, if I wanted to go forth and maybe make a change to a different price field, maybe now I want to update the hour price to be 10% or 90% of the retail. So I could come in here, now that I've got that updated retail price, I can go in and do essentially the same thing. We can see that here is now the retail price, those updated retail prices, and it's now going to go ahead and update the hour price accordingly. So however you want to do this, obviously the math here probably isn't going to be very conducive to what we were kind of discussing there, but this allows you to go in and basically make changes across the board. So instead of having to do them SKU by SKU, this lets you go in and say, yep, I'm going to change all of these items based on these percentage points. If we go back to the first tab, just so you can see the options available to you as far as the adjustment types are percent of retail, percent of our price. You can also do a margin percentage based on either the cost or the weighted cost. You can also do a markup percentage off of cost or weighted cost. You can enter a new dollar amount straight up. You could also do a dollar amount to add. So if you wanted to make a selection and say, I want to add $5 to all of the items on the selected list, you could definitely do something like that. Eric is saying, if we have blacklisted parts and the use, let me read this a little bit closer here. If we have blacklisted parts and use the change inventory pricing, will it include or exclude the blacklisted parts and the price change? I'm not quite sure what you are meaning by blacklisted parts. If you could elaborate on that, that would be wonderful, Eric. Devin is asking, is there a way to have the program round the updated price to a price that ends either in a flat straight dollar amount or a .99? That is actually a suggestion that I have made, Devin, several times to our development staff. So hopefully that will be something that we can take advantage of here at some point, doing some rounding rules that are going to be used in relation to the change inventory pricing and any other types of pricing updates. That will be something that we'll talk about here in just a moment. So I'm going to get to two other utilities, and then hopefully this will be, I'll circle back around to you on that question there, Devin. So another utility that anyone can use, although you'll want to use it with some caution, is a utility back in the utility menu called Inventory Export Import. Now with this program, essentially what you would do is you'll make a selection of inventory, similar to kind of what we just saw. You can select inventory, accessory inventory, serial inventory, or serial numbers. You can make selections based on location, manufacturer, primary vendors, categories, subcategories, etc. What this does is this exports this inventory out to an Excel spreadsheet. Now from there, you'll see all of those price fields in various columns. And then you could make adjustments there and then import that back in. And when you import it back in, you'll come into this second tab where you can then check mark whether or not those imported prices should be done either at just the location they're listed at or all locations, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you click the import button, you will point it to the exported file that was originally pushed out and that you have made changes to. Now, it's very important that you use this kind of with the mindset, if you will, that Excel doesn't know a lot of the settings about your program. So, for example, when you export this out, there will be details in there for like category, but it won't be the category description, it would be the category number. So you just want to kind of keep that in mind. I definitely encourage you to take advantage of the online help page we have on this. If you click this little question mark button, this will take you directly to that part of the manual that we have on this. So it'll go through and it'll discuss what those columns are and whether or not they are editable. So again, I definitely encourage you to check this out and read through that and make sure that you kind of have that in mind when you are doing this. Because ultimately, as you can see here, it's letting you know this is very important that you have a good current working backup in the event that you import those changes and they're not at all what you wanted or expected. The only way really to revert that would be to restore that backup. You can very easily, if you have access to it, make a backup by going to the admin menu, to the utilities, and then run the database backup utility, and then if necessary, you can go to the restore database backup. Just bear in mind that any activity that's happened in between when you made the backup and you restore the backup is going to be gone. So that is a third way of making changes. So the edit utility program, the change SKU or serial programs, the change inventory pricing. This is technically the fourth option, the import export. The last one I want to mention is for those of you who are subscribed to our supplier connection service. And I've done a whole video on that, but back in the Active E supplier connections process, if you've gone through and you have this ongoing service available for the category and inventory downloads, you can do price updates on basically as often as we get price updates from those catalog suppliers. You'll just want to make sure that you go into the supplier setup, and for any given suppliers that you make sure that you've got this checkbox checkmarked here for recalculating pricing for existing inventory, and that is on a per supplier basis. So you want to make sure that you've got that checkmarked so that you can take advantage of the price relations that you might have set up, as well as the rounding rules that are available for you with that, the price rules. So this is circling back to Devin's question, is there a way to do rounding? There is, if you're using this utility, Devin, and whether that is to a directly connected supplier or if you're using our custom supplier connections, which serendipitously we'll be taking a look at next week. So if you have any questions on that, definitely tune in next Thursday and we'll be looking at that. So that all being said, those are kind of the ways that you have available to you. So hopefully with that in mind, you've got almost every utility that you would need to be able to go in and make some price updates. And as you saw, you can kind of do them either on a case per case basis, or you can do it in wide sweeping chunks. So let's make sure that we've got the questions getting answered here. I know I'd asked Eric to elaborate on the blacklisting concept. So let's see what we've got here. He says, when you use... I'm not sure he did. He says, when you use the customer supplier import price file feature, you can right click and blacklist those parts. Oh, okay, so you're talking about the blacklisted items from the supplier connections download. Those blacklisted parts technically are not in your inventory, so the change inventory pricing program wouldn't impact those at all. Hopefully that makes sense there, Eric. Devin is asking, is there a list of suppliers that I can subscribe to? It all depends, Devin, on your industry. Back in the supplier connections setup, in the Active E setup menu, which of course is back up here, on the e-commerce and API tab, whichever suppliers you've checkmarked here as far as industries, they will have their own respective suppliers that participate in that program. But outside of that, there is an ability to do what are called custom suppliers. Like I said, we'll be taking a look at that next week as well. So hopefully that will be helpful. This does require that you are signed up for our supplier connection service. So if you're not sure if you are or not, you can always go up to the Help and About AIM menu and see everything that you're subscribed to, along with all the licensed modules that you have purchased. And if you find that you are not subscribed to that, you can always give our sales office a call and find out the pricing on that. Scott is asking, can you align a new spreadsheet from vendor for column alignment when you import the pricing? Let me see if I can read this again. Can you align a new spreadsheet from vendor for column alignment when you import the pricing? Will the new price uploaded be revised? I'm having a hard time deciphering that question, Scott. I think what you're asking is, can you take a spreadsheet from a vendor and import that? If that's the question, it depends. It ultimately depends if you're signed up for that custom supplier service. If you are, then technically, yes, you can use that to go in, and we'll again be looking at that next week to take those price points and pull them in and then update your existing inventory, as well as actually create new inventory records. So hopefully that will be helpful. If that's what you mean, definitely check it out. Check out next Thursday's live stream, because we'll be diving headfirst into that. And if that's not what you meant, I do apologize. I had a hard time kind of reading the question. We'll stick around here for a little bit if that's not what you meant, if you wanted to try re-asking that, and I'll do my best to respond. So, again, hopefully this has been helpful. As I've been mentioning several times now, next Thursday, if you click back over to the right and change that back to the playlist, if you will, next Thursday we'll be doing a live stream on custom supplier connections. I do recommend that if you have not already done so, go to the videos tab, not right now, but on the videos tab of this video portal, change the playlist to the Active E playlist at the top right of the corner of the window. Go to the Active E playlist, and the very first video there is our overview on supplier connections. So if you've not checked that out, or if you haven't checked that out very recently, you can use that as a refresher, because we'll be building on that thought process, that concept, for next Thursday. And then the last broadcast of the month, which will be Tuesday, January 25th, we'll be getting into some advanced min-max functions, going in and setting up things like seasons, and doing things like supplier stock orders, so doing a resupply en masse from any given vendor. So we'll be definitely taking a look at that. And as far as live stream topics for February and beyond, again, back up here at the top of the toolbar in the video page is a poll. At any point when you are logged into our video page, you can click that poll, and I always have a spot there where you can make suggestions of topics for these live stream broadcasts. So anything that you would like to see me talk about and go over, definitely let me know up there, because I don't want to do these just to fill a quota or anything like that. I want to make sure that these topics that I'm talking about are things that are of interest to you and that you can use. All of these topics, when we do these live stream broadcasts, get recorded, and back on the videos tab, the videos page, when you first log in here, you can go to a playlist called Recent Live Streams. All recorded live streams are placed there, so you can go back and watch them at any time. And yeah, we want to hear from you. We want to have this be a resource for you. So let us know what we can do for you. If you'd like, you can always drop me an email, bsteppen@tritechretail.com, or simply training@tritechretail.com, all one word, TRITECHRETAIL.com. And just give us a call too if you want. We'd love to hear from you. I always try to make myself available if I can to take those phone calls. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of things like these broadcasts or online trainings, or in some cases on-site trainings. But anyway, yeah, let us know what we can do to help you out. Scott was saying correct on what I was discussing there, and it doesn't look like he has the supplier service. So he wants to take the vendor spreadsheet setup to an exported sheet and then upload new prices. If you are exporting, I think we're circling back to the inventory export-import routine. If that's the case, if you're wanting to use that to export the data out and then update it from there, you could technically do that. You just want to make sure that you are pulling in that same spreadsheet that you exported. So I know there are utilities in Excel where you could technically have two Excel spreadsheets open and take data from one column on one sheet and pull it in and replace it on another column based on certain filtering criteria. That being said, I don't know exactly how that works. I have to confess I'm nowhere near an Excel wizard or anything like that. I'm sure there are others out there on YouTube and Instagram and just the web in general that are going to be a lot more helpful than I would be in that respect. But I'm sure that that would be something that you could do if you've got that available. You just want to make sure that when you import that back in, that you are importing the exact same file that you had previously exported, and that all of the line items are matching up as far as the original records that were exported. So making changes on a cell-by-cell basis shouldn't be too big of a deal, but you do want to make sure that the data matches up the same way. So yeah, hopefully that's been helpful. Lyndon is saying, when using the inventory export-import function, do you have to upload everything that you exported, or can you upload just the things that you want to change? So that's kind of getting back to what I was just mentioning, actually. When you pull that file back in, you just want to make sure that all of the line items that were originally exported are where they were. So if there were a handful or even the majority of the records that got exported didn't get changed, not a big deal. It'll only basically make the changes that were changed when you import that back in. So hopefully that makes sense there, Lyndon. Hello, how you doing, by the way? Good to see you virtually. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Scott and Devin and everyone else that's been participating. These are it's great to see some increased activity, and know that I'm not just talking to myself during these sessions. Because yeah, it can be a little bit weird, especially since there's not really like a direct talk-to-talk function. But hopefully, yeah, we'll see you next Thursday. And let us know up in the polling area what you'd like to see me talk about in February and March and beyond. And if nothing else, I hope you can make it a great day and a great year. Happy 2022. And we will see you at the next session. Take care, and God bless.